Welcome to The Issue Is, Fox 11's political show, talking what's hot, what's important, what's affecting you. I'm Alex Michelson. This week, The Issue is The Mooch. Former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci is here, taking us inside the latest Trump administration drama. Plus, The Issue is the North Korea summit. Does the president deserve a Nobel Prize or condemnation? And what's up with that propaganda video? Our panel tackles the hot topics. Jane Wells of CNBC, Loyola law professor Jessica Levinson, conservative Fox News analyst Gianno Caldwell. The Issue Is starts right now. And thank you so much for joining us. Our first guest tonight, the Mooch, is here. Great to have you here.
Really good to be here. Thanks for having me. Of
course, he's a financier, an entrepreneur, and was the White House Communications Director for those 11 days. Who can forget those tumultuous 11 days? Since leaving, he's back in business. He's reconciled with his wife, and maybe he could co-host his own TV show. Anthony Scaramucci, great to have you here.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so President Trump, are you talking to President Trump? When's the last time you talked to him?
I do talk to him. I mean, the last time I talked to him was the Friday before Memorial Day. I was doing a Fox and Friends hit in that morning, and then when I came off that soundstage, we had a conversation. I have to tell you, he's a very busy guy. I still feel I have a very good relationship with him. I'm obviously very loyal to him. But we don't talk every day, and I think that people say that they do. He's the President of the United States, so I think his time is limited, and I certainly don't try to take advantage of calling him or things like that.
You're known for being a straight shooter. That's what makes you so interesting. It may have been too much so. It may have hurt you.
Washington doesn't like the truth, Alex. Yeah. You know that.
But do you ever get frustrated by some of the mistruths that come out of the White House?
Well, I mean, this is the big debate. I mean, I think where a lot of the cable news networks are, okay, the president says a lot of mistruths, a lot of fabrication of stories, and so they get on him super hard. And I'm not here to defend that, but I'm here to just say to people, hold on a second, they're all doing it. And then I get hit when I say that. Because
but isn't he doing it worse than everybody else?
That's not a defense. People say that's not a defense. And so what he does do, and again, I'm not here to apologize for him or explain it or exonerate it, but I'll just tell your viewers what he does do. He has a tendency to get a story pretty much right, and then he creates a little bit of embellishment of those stories. And so my grandfather would have said, why would you let the facts get in the way of a really good story, Alex? And so that's sort of what he's done. But at the end of the day, you can separate the wheat from the chaff. I think on the super important stuff, I would call the president a straight shooter.
Okay, well, one thing where he's doing that is saying that Paul Manafort didn't have a role in the campaign, which he clearly did. He was the campaign chairman.
I don't love that stuff. Yes. He says that stuff about Michael Cohen, and he says I had a lot of lawyers, and Michael was pretty close to him, and Paul was in the campaign with us.
So we were just looking at video of him going into court today. Now he's behind bars, accused of witness tampering. What do you make of that?
I don't know the facts of the case, but if Paul did that, and let's assume that he did, that's why he's going into jail. I think it's pretty aggressive. I mean, he's not somebody that's going to cut and run. They took his passport. He posted up all the bail. And I think he's going to now have to prove that he didn't tamper the witnesses as well. So, what I will say is that the stuff that seems to be happening with Paul was not campaign related. It seems that it goes back 10 or 12 years. And again, I don't know the exact facts of the case. You asked me before this show started, what did I think of Paul Manafort? And I like Paul Manafort. And so, what I don't like about our society, when people have a misstep, a miscue, or something bad happens, everyone's cutting and running from these people. Paul was a friend of mine. We worked very hard on the campaign together. And I think people have to, by and large, when something goes wrong or somebody's done something bad, and they're friends of yours, you should run towards your friends and not away from them. So I have no problem saying good things about Paul Manafort.
Isn't that what the president's doing?
I think he shouldn't do that. I said on Colbert, the isolation strategy with Michael Cohen is not a good one. People should figure out what they can do to help Michael. And again, if he did some terrible things, the indictment hasn't come out yet, Alex. But if he did terrible things, let's find out exactly what they are, and then we can sort of have a legal defense strategy for Michael. But again, our society, social media today, when I went to law school, we all know what the standards are. You're innocent until proven guilty. And so Paul Manafort says he's innocent. Michael Cohen is obviously right now saying that he's not innocent or not guilty because he hasn't been indicted yet. But boy, these guys are getting dunked in the court of public opinion.
Do you think that Michael Cohen is going to cooperate with the feds? And should he? If you were him, would you do that?
Okay, so I don't know. And so if you've stolen, they say you can indict a ham sandwich. So let's use that as an example. If you've stolen a ham sandwich and they say your maximum sentence is a 1 day or 1 hour in jail, well, then you have one strategy, okay? But if you've stolen 10 million ham sandwiches and your sentence is 75 years in jail, then I think you get another strategy, you know? So I think what happens to people is they have a plan and then they meet contact with the enemy. Or like Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So I don't know what the shot is that's coming into Michael. Typically, these things happen over a 10 to 12 week period of time. We're in week 9.5 for Michael, and so my guess is he's going to be indicted shortly. Once we know what it is, you can invite me back on, and then I can tell you what I think the strategy should be.
Well, we'd love to have you back on. Let's talk for a moment about immigration, which was such a big issue, especially here in Southern California. There's this controversy about families being separated. You're a father of 5. Do you think that separating parents from their children is a humane policy?
I don't, but I think that this is a bipartisan problem, and I think what's happening right now is that the president's pointing at the Democrats and saying, well, you know, it's their fault. It's the reason why the kids are being separated. And the Democrats are pointing at the president and the administration and saying, well, it's their fault. But the truth of the matter is there's culpability on all sides here. And so my recommendation is you should be immediately fixing this problem. I think that this is a fuse that's been lit, and it's now burning into a big gunpowder pool, if you will. And so you don't want all that dynamite going off. The president's going to get hurt by this issue if it stays out there very long. Because unfortunately, because he's the commander-in-chief, he's at the top of the food chain of the government, even if it's the Democrats' fault, he's going to get tarred with it. And so my recommendation would, let's fix this immediately, because what we have to stand for in our society is our American values.
Right.
And so when they're saying from the White House that, oh, well, you know, don't break the law, and if you don't break the law, then we won't have to separate you, that's sort of incongruent with American values. I recognize that people should not break the law, but there's a lot of desperate people that want to enter this country, and we have to take a humane approach to those people. You don't want them in the country, and we want there to be legal immigration. Sure. I get that, but let's take a humane approach to these people, because it will reflect very poorly on us globally, and I don't think Americans in general want that.
So Sarah Sanders, who talked about it's biblical to follow the law, you would say it sounds like that's a bad communication strategy.
Well, you know, I think she's in a really tough spot. I love her. Obviously, on my first day, she was made the permanent press secretary. I think she's done a remarkable job. I would argue that that's the hardest job in Washington, if not the hardest job in the world. And so she's up against it because she has to tell the American people the truth to the best of her capability and what she knows to be the truth, but she also has to protect and shield the president. And so she's got a really tough job. I think the biblical reference she was trying to say was more to upholding the law,
right,
and less so to separating people from their children. But I think in Sarah's case, everybody else's case in the White House, people should really sit down and have an honest conversation with the president and say, whoa, this doesn't reflect well on us, okay? Yeah. And you're a father of 5, and you're a grandfather. We have to fix this problem, because if we don't fix this problem, it's counter to what Americans really want and how American people see their country.
Let's talk for a moment about you. This week you were on Stephen Colbert with Michael Avenatti, who of course is Stormy Daniels' attorney. You posted a picture saying that you guys had a drink together.
You and I are winning the hair contest with Michael. Yeah. You know? I don't know if we can win the mouth contest, but we're definitely winning the hair contest.
So there's a lot of rumors out there that the two of you are going to have a TV show. Is that true? What's the deal with you and Michael Avenatti?
So Michael was introduced to me by Jay Suris, who's the head of UTA, United Talent Agency. And so there was some speculation after people saw us together, oh, they're putting a show together. And so that was sort of a rumor. We got invited on the Colbert show. It was sort of a dual invitation, if you will, because of that rumor that came out. I got to know Michael. Michael's a very formidable, tough competitor. I like Michael, and I think that the message that we were trying to convey on the show is that we can be far apart on issues. We can be far apart potentially on ideology, but why do we have to go after each other with this level of viciousness and this vitriol in our society now?
So you'd be open to the show?
Yeah, I said that. I said that on C-SPAN. I said, I'd have to actually see the show. I'd have to actually review it, see what the roles are in the show. I would say it's likely not to happen, and I would say it's primarily probably because Michael's got a case that he's running. That case is going to take a long time to fulfill itself, and so I don't see a show materializing. But I'm one to always keep my options open.
And for Trump supporters that say, "How dare you team up with somebody who's trying to bring him down?"
Well, here's what I would say. I would say that we got to get in the middle. If you want the president to win re-election, which I obviously do, we can talk about why. He has to appeal to moderates. He has to appeal to independents. There's 8 or 9% of the country, basically, that's a toss-up on these elections. And, president's going to get 40%. Right. The Democratic person, no matter who it is going to get 40. And that middle area you got to go after. And I think we need more civility and less civil war. We need more discourse and less coarseness.
All right, well, let's have some fun. We do something called personal issues. This is where we ask you some questions and get to know you a little better. We're going to put 30 seconds on our
Yanni,
clock.
By the way, I don't know why, but I hear Yanni.
Okay, favorite meal?
Favorite meal is obviously pasta. I would say probably a great bolognese at Cipriani's.
Favorite nickname?
Well, I only got one nickname. That's the Mooch. I know the liberals love calling me that because it's a pejorative, but my last name is Scaramucci.
Favorite White House perk?
Well, Air Force One. You don't get to sit where the president sits, but it's still really cool.
Last movie you saw in a theater?
Last movie I saw in a theater is, it was The Despicable Me 3.
Okay.
And I had my kids with me, so yeah.
It's Father's Day weekend.
Yes.
I think we got a photo of you and your dad. What was the most important lesson that your dad taught you?
Well, let me tell you something. He was a super hard worker, and if you work at Skybridge Capital, the firm that I founded, what I would say about my pop is that he was an honest guy. And so if you work at my firm, I always tell the people in my firm, listen, I watched my father take his lunch pail at 4:10 in the morning. My mother put it in the refrigerator the night before. He went to work. He went to work without complaint. He paid his taxes. He hustled in overtime, and so he gave me my last name clean.
This is a song for you, a little Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
thanks for coming in.
So too bad I don't have my glasses on right now.
Yeah.
I throw the glasses on and sing it with you.
Yeah. Oh. That's all for the Mooch. Up next, we got our panel. See him right there, Jane Wells of CNBC, Loyola Law School professor Jeff Levinson, conservative Fox News analyst Gianno Caldwell. Stay with us.
Easy come, easy go.
And the best place to look at the stars in town, of course, the Griffith Observatory. Welcome back to The Issue Is, and welcome to our panel tonight. Jane Wells of CNBC, Gianno Caldwell, conservative political analyst for the Fox News Channel, and Professor Jessica Levinson of Loyola Law School. Great to have you all here.
Pleasure to be here.
And you're a former Fox 11 reporter, so it's good to have you back in the house, right?
It's a few familiar faces. It's nice to be back.
Okay, let's talk about the big story. North Korea, the president saying that this is a great deal for the American people. Some critics are saying, you didn't really get anything. There's nothing verifiable in this. You think this was a good deal?
I think it's a good start. If anybody thought a deal was going to come out of this, then you're just insane. Look, my son's a Marine stationed in Japan. 6 months ago, I was terrified for his safety. I am not terrified now. Who knows what's going to happen? This dorky film they made and all that. But this could be the start of something. And Alex, if there is some kind of peace on the Korean Peninsula by 2020, I'm gonna sit back and see what happens.
Well, speaking of that film, let's show that right now. This is what some are calling a propaganda film. This idea of basically creating a trailer for Kim Jong-un. Let's show that and get your reaction to that.
Will he shake the hand of peace and enjoy prosperity like he has never seen? A great life or more isolation?
I mean, is this the way to do democracy?
With Miami Vice speedboats?
What we can admit to is this administration has been very unconventional. So we can say that. When we look at the summit, 54% of Americans said that it was a success. I think one of the largest issues that we must think about is how can you verify that these test sites have been shut down?
All right, and Jane, our question for you about the economy, that's your specialty. We've got really good economic news, but then we also have this $50 billion in tariffs that the U.S. is going to be putting onto China. China now retaliating. Are we about to have a trade war, and could that really hurt all this economic progress?
Okay. We do have a trade war. Prices will probably go up on a few things. At the same time, U.S. Steel is just firing up a defunct plant in the U.S. because demand for domestic steel is now up because of these tariffs. I'm the sort of person that says, you may not like this president, he has broken the mold, but if by 2020 we have GDP growth near 4%, we've got a market like this, we've got record low unemployment, we've got more jobs than job applicants, and even our allies start to say, we don't like you, but let's do something to make trade, we got to have you, and our trade deficit starts to shrink, and maybe we have peace in Korea. How do you not reelect this guy, even if you think he's a buffoon?
What about the racism?
People are going to say, I don't like him, he's a racist, he's a misogynist, poor illegal immigrants, but I'm doing better than I was 4 years ago. America is safer than it was 4 years ago. The economy's doing better. There are more jobs. And I just don't know how that gets defeated, because it's the economy, stupid.
And more importantly, Democrats don't have a candidate that they can put up against them. But to your point, though, he has provided some gravitas to some of these claims in terms of how you've spoken about issues concerning race. And I think that's important to mention.
Oh, I think he's provided so much national and international embarrassment when it comes to race. I mean, I think he's an avowed racist, misogynist, and pathological liar. And I think he's not a buffoon. I think he's someone who looks up to dictators. So I think people will vote based on the economy because that's a rational decision for voters. But I think it's an enormous embarrassment nationally and internationally if that happens.
I think it'll be the year, this could be the first time an independent candidate, if you have Joe Biden as a Democrat and Donald Trump as a Republican, say, in the middle, are you going to get Howard Schultz? Are you going to get Bernie Sanders? Who is it? Michael Bloomberg? All male names,
Kanye
by the
West.
way. Yeah, well, I just think this could be the first time in decades that an independent candidate may be viable. I don't know.
Well, we've got to leave it there for now. Up next, how does this sound? 3 separate Californias? It's now on the ballot. We're going to talk about that next when the Issue Is comes back. How about that? Are you feeling the California love? Well, a billionaire wants to split our state into 3. That idea now on the ballot. Our panel is back to weigh in on that. Jessica, what do you think? Do you think from a legal perspective this is interesting?
I think this is interesting from a policy perspective, even though it's absolutely not going to happen. Let me say that again. There's no way in which this is going to happen. From a legal perspective, it's fascinating because there are both federal and state issues. One is that if we pass this on the ballot, which, again, we won't, then it has to go to Congress. Congress, which is kind of the face of inaction, I think is going to not be particularly excited to do this. If then Congress says yes, I think that the California legislature, under the federal constitution, still has to say, thumbs up. If there's 120 people in California who do not want to give up power, go to Sacramento, find them. They will not vote for this. And then the question is it actually a revision under the California Constitution? Answer is probably yes, which is another way of saying this proposal, which would create 3 amazing states of inequality, is unlikely to see the light of day.
And go to the courts.
Do either of you guys think it's a good idea?
No, here's why. Although it would allow Gavin Newsom, John Cox, and Antonio Villaraigosa to all be governors.
Another bad part of the proposal.
Yeah, here's why I think it's a bad idea. Despite the fact that most of the revenue generation going on in this state would now be in Northern California, which is, by the way, would also be part of the Sacramento. Water. We would now be in an area where we would have to import water from out of state, and that would cost us way too much.
Although it would be good to have more senators, because we've got 40 million people in states with less than 1 million have as many
Democrats
senators as we do.
would love that, because we'd have more Democratic senators.
That's one way to look at it, too. We're going to be back with a special Father's Day message right after this. Happy Father's Day weekend. From the time I was a little boy, my dad, David, played his favorite artist for me, the boss, Bruce Springsteen. There we are at a concert. I wouldn't be the man I am today without him. I wouldn't be hosting this show without him. I love you, Dad. And now, fight on to you as well. Now we're going to give our panels opportunity to talk about their dad.
That is Ed Wells. That picture is probably from the year 1842. My dad, I was a 4th out of 5 kids. He was an older dad. He was so mellow and always would send me notes when I became a reporter and moved out of state saying, even if you lived next door, you would still be too far away. And then he'd stick like $5 in there.
Yeah, this is Jessica.
This is my dad with my daughter because we have no good pictures of the two of us. And he is the first lawyer I ever met, and he's just a wonderful person. Right now, he really enjoys being a grandfather more than anything, but he's taught me so much about civic engagement, and he's an important member of the community.
Gianno?
And this is my dad. I'm from Chicago, so I'm not from here. I'm actually flying out. His name is Anthony Williams. I'll be in Chicago with my grandfather and my dad, taking them to dinner. Follow the cute moments on Instagram at Gianno Caldwell.
Wow, I'm at Alex Michelson. Way to get your shout out. You can see all of us on Bonus Issues online right now. It's streaming on my YouTube and Facebook pages as well. Check us out. We're going to talk about a lot more. But that's it for this week on TV. Happy Father's Day to everybody at home.